All right, well, looks like folks are joining the webinar now. So why don't we get started? First of all, I'd like to thank everyone for taking the time out of your day to join, and I'm really excited to talk to you about an effective method for creating behavior change. This webinar will last about 30 minutes, after which you'll have time to submit some questions, and hopefully we'll get some time to answer those as well. You can submit those questions on the GoToMeeting dashboard, and we'll answer as many as we can by the end, or at the end. A little bit about myself. I'm a user experience manager here at Medullan. I'm actively engaged in helping clients across the pharma, life science, and payer space create behavior change programs and implement them across user experiences, both digital or mobile and web across the digital spectrum. And a little bit about Medullan. What do we do? We're digital health experts. We're really passionate about solving business and health challenges that companies in the healthcare sector face. We combined digital strategy and user experience expertise along with deep technical expertise to help these organizations bring their ideas to life. Well, let me start out by saying that nailing behavior change is extremely important. We have about a 38% obesity rate here in the US, and diabetes and heart disease is climbing, while healthcare costs are increasing exponentially. On the bright side, mobile health apps and wearables are gaining a dramatic adoption, but the users of these platforms often struggle with long-term engagement. So there's a ton of different gamification and behavior techniques out there, but simply tracking and receiving points and badges isn't really enough to create that long-term engagement. And that's why we'd like to kind of walk you through a method or an approach for using goals to organize some of these techniques to create more sustained behavior change. And there are three reasons that we're going to be talking about goals, and I think they're an effective behavior change technique. The first one is they actually create motivation. Goals build motivation by setting a tangible vision which inspires people to make a change. Secondly, they focus us. They focus users. They help us to prioritize all the vague sort of health behaviors we think we probably should do, and give us concrete steps towards improving our health. And thirdly, they actually increase persistence. Having a concrete endpoint helps us to move past momentary surges of motivation or lack of motivation and actually stick with behaviors longer. And we're going to walk you through a step-by-step framework for how you can actually create motivating, activating goal programs. This framework outlines key phases people experience when they're setting and pursuing goals. Obviously, most of the examples, or all the examples we'll talk through, are in the healthcare field, but they could range from anywhere from improving diet to exercise to smoking cessation. This framework can really be applied to a number of different health behaviors. As people involved in behavior change, we have the opportunity to support users through each phase of their goal journey. From the first step, which is to recognize the need. In any process of goal setting, a user needs to understand why they're engaged in that goal in the first place. Why should they actively participate in a goal intervention? As digital health experts, as people in the field in general, we often are biased towards solutions and creating these interventions themselves. But it's important to anchor our programs to the core needs that have been established by users in their own medical history and reinforce them throughout our interventions. Once a user has recognized the need, there are many goals that they can pursue. If users don't set the right type of goal, they can find themselves lost as to how to pursue it or unmotivated about pursuing that goal. And thirdly, in terms of goal pursuit, after we help users select an appropriate goal, supporting them in that pursuit of the goal is critical. Rather than trusting that users simply go full steam ahead on their own, we can help support them in that goal pursuit by triggering the desired behavior that they're looking for, providing feedback, and celebrating their progress along the way. And finally, it's important to consider how users will be rewarded for their achievement. It's very hard to build motivation without users feeling rewarded. However, many goal programs over-rely on extrinsic motivators like monetary incentives, which fail to create lasting motivation. So in the rest of this webinar, I'll walk you through some of the details of each of these phases so you can optimize adoption around each component of your goal program. So how do we establish the need? There are many individuals at risk, individuals who struggle with smoking, with obesity, with inactivity, etc. But not all of them are candidates for our goal program. In order for people to engage in the pursuit of a goal, they first need to be activated by understanding their need for the health goal in the first place. This is really important not to gloss over, even though a lot of our digital solutions don't address this head on. In fact, the most important goal programs are informed by the why behind individuals' engagement in the program itself. Why do people arrive at them? What are they looking for when they participate in the goal program? And what are they trying to get out of them? You can accomplish this through deep qualitative user research and modeling before you start designing the details of your program, so that you can make the experience more tailored and more effective by reinforcing their motivation for pursuing that program. Well, it turns out there's really three factors that influence people's belief for the need of a goal program. And these are kind of, these are borrowed and adapted from the health belief model, which is a kind of a clinically validated public health research construct. The first factor is really users need to understand the severity of the health risk, that they're aware of what the condition is and how it can impact their life, what that condition might be and what it could do. Unfortunately, a lot of Americans actually lack health literacy, so this is a difficult task in its own right. Secondly, susceptibility to that risk. Users need to understand what their particular risk for that condition is, or health risk is. We all probably know smokers who know that lung cancer is a terrible thing, or COPD is a terrible thing, but they have maybe a grandfather or a great uncle who smoked their entire life and never got lung cancer. So in this case, that user we probably need to build an understanding of their own personal susceptibility to the risk. And different strategies we can use to do this are online screeners, content that describes the risk of describe specific risky behaviors or symptoms that users could identify with. But most importantly, a lot of this actually happens in the provider office. So we need to understand and recognize that, that may not be a specific touch point for our app or our goal program. It does still exist, and we need to understand this there. Now, finally, once a user understands the severity of the health risk and their own susceptibility to that risk, they need to believe that a goal program is an effective way to take action, and they believe in their ability to take action and influence that risk. They're going to be asking themselves about how effective changing their own behavior might be. You're going to run into problems around fatalism and a lack of confidence in users that they can actually engage in a goal program. And I think there's a number of strategies that we can employ here, which are, a lot around social endorsements, referrals from trusted sources like doctors, and really getting people to identify with the sort of the results that are they're able to achieve with their goal program. So those three factors really influence people's belief in their need for engaging in a goal. Now, the second part of a goal program is really making sure we set the right goals. And this is where a lot of goal programs start. But it's not only important that people just set a goal, it's that they set the right type of goal, goals that are actually activating them and motivating them to take action. And if we fail to do this, if we miss the mark here, we're going to fail to incite that long-term commitment that users that will require users to move forward when things get difficult, or potentially leave them lost as to what to do if they don't have the right type of goal set at the beginning. We believe there are really three characteristics of activating goals that we can help sort of imbue the goal setting process with within our digital goal programs. The first one is that goals are challenging, and research shows that people who set challenging goals actually inspire better performance. Now, there's probably limits to this, and I'll walk you through that in a minute. Secondly, that goals are self-directed, that they provide users with a level of autonomy in choosing or participating in their goal. And thirdly, we need to help users set goals that are clear so they understand what accomplishing their goal actually looks like. So going back to the challenging goals characteristic, it's important to set goals that have the right level of challenge in order that users feel engaged and they're actually able to make progress towards a meaningful health outcome. Goals that are too easy often will not feel meaningful or inspiring to users, but goals that are too aggressive, like running a marathon or losing 20 pounds a month, for many users will be dismissed. It will fail to create that glue and that connection to the goal because they don't believe they can actually accomplish them. Now, the sweet spot is really recommending goals that are challenging but identifiably attainable, maybe even slightly uncomfortable in terms of the user's past level of effort and experience. So we want to actually push users beyond that, but make sure there's a line from their previous behavior to what we're helping them set their sights on. It's important to understand the type of, and this is why it's really important to understand the recognized need that users come to a goal program with. As I mentioned, it's established in that previous phase, and as well as the abilities that users have when they're arriving at their program. Are you trying to optimize, are your users trying to optimize their fitness? So are they engaged in more ambitious performance-oriented goals, or are they really motivated for health and well-being reasons, have a better physical next time they visit their doctor? These are the important things to consider when helping users set goals within your program. Now, the second characteristic of activating goals is autonomy. A sense of choice has been shown to actually improve persistence in pursuing a goal. So offering users the ability to choose or to some degree influence what their goal might be. Goals that others generate can be, this is because goals that others generate can be easily dismissed when things get hard. And when users feel pressured into something, they don't fully understand the why behind what they're pursuing, and they can easily kind of rationalize giving up when things get more difficult. And the third thing here is that self-directed goals are much more likely to reflect the user's values and preferences as well as their abilities. The one caveat here would be if a goal comes from a trusted and respected source, those are also highly effective as well. So if it's something that a user just needs to do, like lower their cholesterol, reinforcing the sort of benefits and the clinical authority behind that goal suggestion is a way to build commitment in the absence of them completely choosing from a blank slate. But for a lot of health and fitness goals, there's quite a range of goals that users can choose. And Runkeeper does a really good job of walking users through a goal coaching program, which provides them autonomy and a sense of control. They actually interview users about what's important to them, a little bit about their demographic history and their abilities, their health history rather, and suggests a goal and kind of supports that with rationale for why that goal has been suggested. So you can check that out as a really good example for providing users with self-directed goals. Now, the third characteristic of activating goals is that they're clear, as I mentioned before. Clear goals are much more effective than lofty or vague goals. Couch to 5K is a really good example of setting a clear goal for users, a clear goal that's inspiring and feels meaningful. But it's clear because there's an actual distance you're supposed to run, of course. But they also give you a workout plan that's customized to users based on your own ability. So not only is the goal clear, but the steps to get there are clear themselves. Goals like this that are clear help users to sort of measure their progress and really give them a sort of a much more concrete thing to latch onto to feel inspired towards and to talk about, frankly, with other people. Now, once we've understood why a user needs to establish a goal and we've helped them set the goal, then we need to help to support them in pursuing that goal Just one caveat is that there's obviously a dense body of behavior change research around this particular phase of goal setting. So I'm going to be doing a bit of a drive-by in the last part of this webinar, but would be happy to connect with you about these strategies in more detail or other ones if you have questions or want to think through things after the webinar. What we really can break it down to is 4 different ways to support goal pursuit, users pursuing their goals. The first one is really triggering the action. We really want to cue users to the action or the goal-directed behavior we want them to engage with. The second thing here is we need to make it easier and lower the friction and barriers to the behavior across different dimensions of effort, not just how many clicks they need to take or how much physical effort, but there are actually different dimensions of effort that we'll talk through in a second. The third thing we can do is to provide feedback as users progress. Let them know how they're doing, and this is really important because it helps them to adjust their technique and adjust their effort in achieving their goal. It helps them kind of know where they are and how they're doing. And finally, we need to celebrate users' progress. We need to help them feel that they're engaged in a program that's delivering them small, ongoing victories as they go, not just one victory a couple months out or a month out. We really need to deliver them positive reinforcement as they go. Now, medication adherence is a pretty serious issue, and this is kind of an example I'd like to cite. Because it reduces the efficacy of drugs and it results in hospitalization in many cases. In often cases, people are taking multiple medications treating different conditions, which further complicates things. This is why I'm citing this example of a pill pack here for triggering the right action. So pill pack actually, sends their users or members notifications and reminders. That's why they're critical. These are types of notifications and reminders are critical because of the complexity of some of these medication regimes. But we can take this principle and expand it outward towards other types of challenges as well. I mean, I think that really the key thing to know about triggers and cueing goal-directed behavior is that these cues and these triggers need to be noticeable. That sounds obvious, but it actually isn't that obvious if you look at how cluttered most people's lives are in terms of their digital experiences. They receive notifications and phone calls and text messages and emails, and they watch TV and they watch videos online. So there's a lot of noise in people's daily lives. So our notifications and triggers and cues need to cut through this clutter. Triggers also need to provide the right level of urgency. They shouldn't be too alarming if they, it's not appropriate for them to be. And they also shouldn't be too soft, or else they will go unnoticed, as mentioned before. So the right level of urgency is key here. And the third thing to note about triggers and notifications is they're most effective when they're timely. And by that I mean when they're delivered at the point where they're most actionable, when the user's most able to take action on that notification. So for example, if a user needs to take their medication sometime in the morning, we should probably send that notification when they're most likely to be around their medication, whether that's breakfast time or when they first get up. Finding the right time to deliver a notification or a trigger is key. Secondly, what we want to do here to support our users in their goal pursuit is to make things easier for them. That sounds obvious, but what I mean by that is to lower the amount of effort that they need to put in to actually perform their goal. It's not just about triggering their behavior or providing them rewards or incentives. Actually lowering the amount of effort is another key and often overlooked behavior change strategy. And there are different types of effort, as I mentioned. There's physical effort, such as exercising. So a good example of lowering that effort is couch to 5K, or not couch to 5K, sorry, a 7-minute workout, right? So the amount of effort or time users spend working out, they've kind of decreased that barrier to make it easier for people to adopt that behavior. The second type of effort is cognitive effort. How hard is it to remember to do what you need to do you have to figure out lots of different things in order to do that. And that's where PillPack is, really kind of figured out a pretty innovative strategy, both in terms of physical effort, cognitive effort, and time type of effort, the amount of time people have to spend sorting their medication. They've really kind of streamlined all of those things by giving users a specific packet with only the medication they need for the day. They can just open it up and pour it out, take it, rather than having to open lots of different pill bottles, count out the right dosage, and do that 7 times a week for the rest of their lives. They've actually streamlined all different aspects of effort. So it's important to sort of think across those dimensions as you think about decreasing effort. And as you do that, as you lower that effort, the actual behavior that you're looking to motivate will actually increase just by the fact of making it easier. The third thing we can do to help support users on their goal pursuit is to provide regular feedback. And we've talked a bit about this, so I won't go into too much detail, but this is where actually a lot of behavior change and sort of wearables and quantified self type platforms kind of excel, providing that users with that data and that transparency to their own behavior. Just a couple of things to note about providing feedback is that you really need to provide it frequently and at the point where it's easiest to take action on it. That way users will really internalize that feedback. But one thing we need to be aware of is if users aren't making feedback, we really need to frame that feedback in a way that's not discouraging. So we need to let them know that they should probably change something, or probably increase effort, or that they should remember to do something. But we don't want to make them feel like they failed. That's key to sort of encouraging continued engagement in a goal program. Finally, another thing we can do to help support people in pursuing their goals is celebrating their progress, or celebrating the progress that users make, leaving them with a feeling of successive or series of successive small victories. They'll build a sense of confidence in their own ability to control their behavior and achieve their goals. It's called actually building self-efficacy, and it's incredibly powerful in terms of building long-term ability to achieve healthy behaviors or any new skill, really. So an example of this is mHealth, which is a chronic condition management platform. They take a really interesting approach. They enable users to share goals with a select group of loved ones, rather than receive standard system notifications like badges or progress indicators. They employ the social dynamics that actually exist in users' lives already, by enabling them to receive encouragement from loved ones that cheer them on when they've taken their medication on time, or they've reached milestones within a health goal, like lowering their blood pressure or increasing their activity. Yeah, it's a pretty powerful strategy to kind of tie the celebration of progress with the social connections that people have in their lives. Now, once a person has established their need, set a goal, and engaged in pursuing their goal, they need to be rewarded to stay engaged. Rewards exist between two distinct poles. Ones that satisfy extrinsic motivation, and ones that satisfy intrinsic motivation. Extrinsic rewards are things like points and money and prizes, things that are totally removed from the behavior itself. They're kind of abstract in that sense. Intrinsic rewards are inherent to the activity or the behavior itself. So someone who likes to run because they like how they feel when they run, and they like how they feel after they run, that's more of an intrinsic reward. Most people require rewards somewhere in the middle of the spectrum, because their motivation is mixed, to be honest. People that are purely intrinsically motivated are rare, and they're probably not likely to need heavy goal programs. On the other hand, folks that are completely unmotivated need to be rewarded entirely with extrinsic rewards like points and money. Luckily, most users should have some intrinsic motivation. After all, they've sort of recognized a need for this goal in the first place, and that need is based off of some type of impact on their own health. Choosing the right type of reward for a goal program is really important. It should reflect where your users are on this continuum. But it's important to be careful about overdoing extrinsic rewards. Though they're often powerful motivators in the short term, relying on them excessively can rob people of the drive to engage in the health behavior they're looking for in the absence of those rewards. If we remove those extrinsic rewards, they're often less likely to actually perform those behaviors. An interesting study by Dan Ariely from Duke kind of proves this, and he basically, what he did was he showed that users or participants in the study actually decreased their performance and enjoyment around tasks they previously did without incentives, once he gave them incentives and removed those incentives. So it's a kind of an interesting study. You should look it up. They probably don't have too much time to go into it right now. So as much as possible, we want to harness intrinsic rewards in order to create more lasting engagement, even beyond our app and our program, after users have achieved their goal. And we can leverage 3 strategies to build motivation, intrinsic motivation. There's probably many more, just highlighting a few for you here. The first one that's key is to build a sense of mastery. And that sense of mastery is rewarding in itself, because providing people with a sense of their ability improving or increasing over time is just incredibly motivating. You can imagine how empowering it is for users engaged in a jogging goal, for example, a running goal, to count the amount of miles that they can run increase over time, or watch their time go down, for example. Secondly, creating a sense of identity around positive health behavior is a way to build intrinsic motivation. Reinforcing that a person is the type of person that takes these healthy behaviors or engages in healthy behaviors is a way to do this. And it's even more powerful if you can create or reinforce that identity inside of a social construct or a group construct, and help them feel like they're a part of something bigger than themselves. They're a part of a group that they're proud to belong to. And now the third thing that we can do to improve intrinsic motivation or intrinsic rewards within a goal program is to improve the salience of future benefits. And what I mean by that is there are often costs and benefits of engaging in any health behavior. Decision theory would say that engaging in any action is a function of internal costs, an internal cost and benefit calculation. The problem is that benefits for future health behavior often exist too far into the future, and there's sort of a time discounting that goes by that lowers people's value placed on those benefits. And the costs of engaging in such behavior, such as the discomfort of actually going out and exercising, or not eating certain foods that you enjoy eating, exist right now in their experience right now. So they don't have that same type of time discounting. As designers of behavioral systems, we can help build intrinsic motivation by shifting this equation and bringing attention to some of these future benefits here and right now. Tying it back to the first phase of a goal program, again, establishing that need, we need to help users kind of reconnect with the need that they've established, so that we can bring forward some of those future benefits and make them a little bit more deeply felt as a user experiences rewards throughout a program. So just to sum things up, kind of walk you through a framework here for how you can support users through the entire journey of their goal program, from recognizing their need and reinforcing that need throughout the program, to goal selection and creating goals that really activate users. And thirdly, to help support them when they pursue goals, from triggering the right action, making it easier, providing feedback, and celebrating their success, to what type of rewards to help users experience as they achieve their goal after they've expended a lot of effort into pursuing them. And with that, I think I'll just close out and thank you all for your time today. So just to follow up on the questions, it looks like we're running a little bit short on time, so I will be reaching out to folks who have sent questions in via GoToMeeting via email. I'll respond to you via email and hope to get you answers within the next day or so. Thanks so much. Take care.